Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of the Pixie Dust podcast. For those of you who are new here, the Pixie Dust podcast is for the next generation of founders. Our goal is to inspire, educate, and empower listeners to ideate and create the businesses of tomorrow. Today we'll be chatting with my friend Vlad. Based in Russia, he is the founder and CEO of ARnDAI, the first remote augmented reality multiplayer technology company. He has over 4 years of experience in augmented reality. And at the age of only 21, he's already founded 2 augmented reality companies. We have a very interesting conversation in store for you guys, so be sure to stay tuned. Enjoy! We're here with Vlad, founder of ARnDAI. Hi Vlad, thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, sure. So my name is Vlad. I'm the founder and CEO of ARnDAI, where we're building remote multiplayer augmented reality technology. So basically our tech allows people in different rooms and places see and interact with the same augmented reality. And I've been working in augmented reality for the last 4 years, and actually that's my second company here. I'm 21, and yeah, my first company I've started it in when I was 18, and back in like a year ago, I've started this company ARnDAI.
Wow, so you're only 21. Can you share a little bit about your experience starting ARnDAI at such a young age? Did you face any obstacles because of your age?
Sure. I think that the biggest problem for people in my age is that you don't have expertise in all the spheres needed to start a startup. It means not only technical skills, like to build some apps or technologies. It also touches lack of experience with marketing, sales, fundraising, because when you are in a startup, you need to to have qualifications in all of these spheres, like to be one man for multiple tasks.
So what drew you to entrepreneurship in the first place, especially at 18? What was your introduction to entrepreneurship and what inspired you to start your first company?
I think that that came to me naturally because when I was like 15 or 14, I was just curious about information technology, about new products and technologies, and I've decided to gather a team to start building some apps together. And actually, I've gathered 10 people, and we've built multiple outsourced projects and a couple of in-house. And later, I saw that outsource is actually not for me because I have ambitions to start something big, something huge for to make the world better, to solve some really big problems, and actually decided to start a startup. And that not like appeared in one day. Actually, it took over a year to make a startup, a real startup with office funding, the team, and everything.
I know augmented reality and virtual reality are definitely up and coming markets, but what made you decide to focus on the augmented reality space?
When we are talking about ARnDAI, that's the result of my previous 4 years of experience in AR. So I've been working there and seen lots of problems. And actually, I've talked to multiple developers who were trying to build very similar apps as I was trying in my previous company. And actually, we all didn't have a multiplayer option. So you know that in augmented reality, there is only collaborative experiences where people must be physically in the same location to interact with each other. And it's really weird because, for example, right now we can be together in one room and we can share the same environment as well. So we need a solution to be able to connect when we are not physically together. And for me, that was obvious, but we haven't seen solutions for that, and actually decided to build the tech. And if we're talking about developers, they can't have resources to build such feature for just one app. and they need an external solution to build such experiences. And you've also mentioned augmented reality versus virtual reality, and I actually have experience in both. So my first app was in virtual reality. It was about 5 or 6 years ago, and I only had Google Cardboard. I really loved the concept, even with such glasses, because it's really amazing how small box can give you an absolutely different view on your screen of your mobile phone. That's really interesting. But anyway, I think that the use cases of virtual reality, especially in that time, were limited. And the reason is, first, it's a technical reason, and the second is people, because not everyone have devices with them. For instance, I still have only this cardboard. And what touches augmented reality, we all have mobile phones, and almost any Android or iOS mobile device can now run augmented reality apps. And of course, every new model supports augmented reality, so it's easier for people to try some new things, apps, and for products and developers, it's easier to get massive adoption.
That makes sense. So let's rewind to the beginning of ARnDAI. How did you meet your team? How did you start putting together your team? Did you build a prototype of the multiplayer platform prior to building your team, or did you build it after you met your team?
My first company was also, like I've mentioned, in augmented reality, and here my team was also with developers, and actually my co-founder, my previous co-founder, is also a founder of this company. And
Okay.
yeah, so that time, even before funding, even before registering the company, we've already had a team of programmers and everyone who was needed for the product. And of course, because before raising any capital, we had a prototype. We've tested it with multiple users. The product was a game, but we've tried to test the character of the game itself with iMessage stickers. The early prototype, of course, it should be done for fundraising, and even some traction, of course. But at the ARnDAI, because of because of its history, so it's not like the result of one day. We've already spoke with a lot of people. We've tried to understand how it works on paper and made early prototypes without any traction or already built product. We first we started the company with an idea, and it was easier for us because our previous investor already joined us, and he understood the idea. So we didn't need to build a whole product to get the traction before raising money.
Very interesting. So many of our listeners are probably in the stage that you were with your first company, and you're probably still in school then, right? And I know many people think that they need to drop out of school to fully commit to an idea. Can you tell us your story? Did you end up doing that?
Yeah. So in my case, when I've started my first team, not a startup, I was studying at school at high school, and that was like an interesting experience. But when I was entering the university, I thought it would be really hard to combine academical studies together with work simultaneously. But it's really not the case. So you don't need to think to think this way, because I found a good collaboration between academical knowledge and actual experience. For example, you can get some some math, for example, some math knowledge there, and try to realize those algorithms in your work, and you can test it and then come back to the university and say to your teacher or someone that these are the results. So see it, and actually it worked out pretty well. Because I've even started a small course for younger people at my university, about startups, about how to start it, and actually I've mentioned how important to start early and everything. And also, universities is a great place for network. So my co-founder is also my group mate. We've met just before the university, and now working for the last 4 years together, and we are basically best friends. And specifically for people who are in top universities, that's extremely great to network there, because your professors can even become your investors, for example. Yeah, and your group mates can join your team. They can develop apps with you. It only depends on how good you speak with them, how good you explain your idea, and yeah, so I think that university is actually a great place to start, and a great time, of course, because you don't have responsibilities on your actual job or your actual work, and you can start whenever you like.
So I'm very curious because of that. When you're in school, you're very young. As you mentioned earlier in our conversation, you also don't have a lot of experience. So when it comes to fundraising, I would think that there'd be some challenges there that it would be difficult. What was your experience?
Yeah, the main thing is that no one tells you, so you are young, I will not give you money.
Okay.
I haven't experienced that. The main problem is of course this lack of experience, and probably no one among your friends or colleagues, no one tried fundraise before. No one tried to start an actual startup, and especially 4 years ago. I'm not sure how it's now. So there are a lot of videos and courses from Y Combinator and others explaining how you need to start and everything. But when you are really young, like you are 18, it doesn't really help you, because the environment in front of you is very different. So
Mhm.
I truly believe that you need to experiment, and when you are young, the main thing you need is to learn quickly. So of course you need to read those books. You need to um, watch courses. For example, you can join a startup school from Y Combinator. It's also interesting experience. But probably you also can find an advisor to help you with this journey. Or for instance, some people at university probably already started something, and they can help you.
So what was your approach? Did you hire an advisor or a um, professor or someone to help you, or did you just figure it out yourself and iterate?
Mm, No, we've made a lot of iterations actually, because my university was focused mostly on mathematics, physics, and everything, rather than business. So I had no such professors and teachers, and among my friends, I also didn't have anyone who tried um, startups before. Actually, I've studied in Russia, and it's not so developed as in Silicon Valley. So not a lot of people starting a real startup. I've seen a lot of passionate people who interested in startups, who trying some ideas, but it's on a very different level. It's easier to get engineers there because the field is not so competitive. You really can find awesome people there in the university. For example, my co-founder, um, as I've said, he's my group mate, and a fun fact from his life is that at the age of 14, he he managed servers of World of Warcraft, and actually he won a lot of conferences and Olympiads in computer science. So he is a technical genius, really. So I think he's one of the most qualified programmers in my life.
That's amazing. I think I'm so intrigued because, there are so many up and coming areas where, entrepreneurship is just emerging. How did you find your team? How did you find people who were interested in entrepreneurship in your area if, entrepreneurship isn't actively present too much and, you go to a school that's not too business focused? Do you have any advice for people who are looking into building their network and meeting other entrepreneurs or people interested in startups?
So yeah, actually, if you are looking for some people, you already probably an entrepreneur. And if you don't need the whole team to be entrepreneurs. Actually, you need to develop something, you need some interesting ideas, probably your ideas, and engineers who can work with you. In my case, my co-founder is also an entrepreneur because he also tried a lot of projects before joining the university. And but other guys from my team, they were not experienced with startups or whatever. For example, one person in my team was actually a professor in a different university. He was teaching students programming, and yeah, so that's totally fine. That don't everyone not everyone has expertise in startups or want to be an entrepreneur. Startups is a great place for people to try new things, to iterate really quickly. For example, on later stages, some people from really huge companies joined us just because we've used all the newest technologies and actually we were um, trying to build something very unique on the market, and they wanted to be a part of it. And that's how it works in my case.
When you met your co-founder, you mentioned he's a technical genius. You also seem like a very strong programmer and developer. How did you guys divide the tasks within the company? How do you divide the roles? How did you distinguish that? How did you discuss that amongst each other to find a good balance?
So we are trying to make major decisions together, whether whether it's a technical issue or a business. It doesn't matter. We trying to explain each one positions to and discuss it. And about the roles, sure, we both are qualified in programming. We came from a little bit different specialities. For example, my specialty was Android and iOS development, so I worked mostly with mobile, while my co-founder was mostly concentrated on servers. So anyway, we are trying to. I'm helping my co-founder with tech, but when it comes to like sales or business development, I'm taking this part because previously, previously I had experience like a project manager, a product manager in my this team with outsourced people, with outsourced projects. So we've made a lot of interesting things together, and I've managed all the processes. So I was like a CEO because we, of course, we didn't have a CEO, but in a team, so it mostly a product manager. And here I got some, some knowledge how to make business, and I even improved the skills while I was working in the previous company. All these things related to work with partners, I took it on my side, and now 5 or 7 years later, um, I'm more experienced in that field, while my co-founder is is extremely good programmer.
So since you work on the sales aspect, walk us through your first sale or your experience leading up to your first sale. What are some things you learned and some challenges you faced? And just tell us about it, because we're all in that early stage.
Yeah, so I think that the main problem in our case was that not everyone understand how augmented reality works. So in 2017 or 2018, that was a buzzword, and actually everyone was trying to build something with disruptive technologies and everything. But it was rather difficult to explain what is the value. And we've worked with multiple sectors, with with tech companies, and even with retail. So, for example, our last project in the previous company was with retail, and it's every time it's different. So we need to, in our case, you need to think on value proposition every time differently regarding the concrete customer. And in ARnDAI, it's a little bit easier because the solution is more scalable, and it's more easy to, it's easier to understand for people, because we're targeting like specific companies with specific needs, and there are like 4 years from that time, and more people was trying to build multiplayer, and they failed. And when you say that you can actually build it and you can help them, it's easier for them to understand what are you talking about.
Absolutely. You know, I think something that works very well is to really understand what their needs are. Why are they coming to you? What are they trying to build in your case with your technology? And then positioning the pitch based off of that. In my own personal experience, I've also found that very effective in most conversations. And anytime I'm trying to convince someone of my thought process, I think about it from their perspective, and I think of a way to insert my idea into their line of thought. And I think that is surprisingly effective. And I think not a lot of people think that way, and I think it works very well. So most of us are aspiring entrepreneurs or are in the early stages of ideation. What is some advice you have for us? Just the first thing that comes to your mind that you want aspiring entrepreneurs to know when they're starting out.
I think that the first advice comes on my mind is to start early. It means not the age, but the moment. You don't need to wait for a special occasion in your life and to start something. You can try it, and actually the only way to learn about startups is to start one. And you can like watch courses or everything for your whole life, and don't start something. It really just works. So you need to start something, and then test it. You probably will fail, of course. And for the first time, no one gets great results, I believe. But in general, you can like teach yourself on fails, get those get this knowledge, and try again.
So when you fail, which we both have many times, what is your approach to understanding why you failed or what you can learn from that failure?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So personally, what it comes to my mind right now is I'm trying to understand more mathematically why I've failed. For example, if it's an app, I'm trying to dive into statistics, dive into the data I got from it, and trying to figure out what specifically gone wrong in that case. And also, for example, right now, I'm making some assumptions what I'm going to achieve in, for example, 2 weeks or a month by doing X. And Actually, it works because you have your expectations, and you have concrete goals, so you can measurable goals. It's important to have measurable goals, not like to have a great app. You need to have a great app with X users and Y, you know, um, revenue, for example. So it really helps to data really helps you understand some critical knowledge here.
Absolutely. One thing you touched on, it I think is very important in the sense that if you have a goal, it's very, very useful to outline a strategy on how you think you're going to get there, with measurable steps along the way, and an accomplishable timeline. So that's
Yeah.
an estimated time, of course, but generally time range on when you think those goals are going to be accomplished, and keep track of the numbers associated with that goal. And even if they're not meeting the goal, it helps, as you mentioned, keep track of maybe if you need to change the strategy or you need to try something else, or if it's working very well, it helps you really get an idea of it. If you don't have that, and at the end of the time frame or at some random time you decide to evaluate it, you then realize you're not meeting your goal, you won't really know when things went awry or any of the analysis, any of the data, you just won't have any of it. So you'll be speculating a lot more than you necessarily have to. Um, Additionally, if you, I think, have any kind of challenges or failures related to interpersonal relationships, for example, Vlad, I'd love to know if you've had any challenges working within your team or hiring someone new or anything like that where you've had to make a difficult interpersonal decision at your company. Have you had any of those?
Of course, everyone probably has or had some difficulties with interpersonal um, communication, and some problems with hiring and everything, because every time when it touches a group of people, they all have different views on some points, on some uh, especially I believe it especially touches programists. So they all have, especially senior programmers, because they all have a lot of previous experience, and they think that their opinion is the only right opinion on this particular case. And actually, it's important to like to track the conflicts, the probable or possible conflicts, and trying to figure out early how it can be solved, because the reason why those issues happen is that there is a lack of conversation every time. In my experience, it was every time, because someone, for example, made the task. Those programmers were trying to um, to understand how to implement this task. And of course, they came up with different technologies or with different approaches to solve the problem. And it's totally okay, because both of those approaches can work, but there should be always a person who is responsible for such decisions. And it's important to to participate in all such discussions to cut this early.
I know you're very passionate about multiplayer AR and its future. In addition to that, is there any other space or any other technology you see as very promising, or as something that you're keeping an eye on or encourage other entrepreneurs to pursue?
Yeah, so if we are talking about augmented reality, a lot of people now trying to build some AR glasses, headsets, or something, because a lot of people believe that it's going to be a next hero device to to interact with the world around us, probably. And actually, there is a problem that, for example, you are not wearing glasses, and will you wear them if you have AR headset or something? Probably not. Probably not everyone will wear those glasses. And actually, there is a company, probably more than just one, who is trying to build um, an alternative for AR headsets. They're creating lenses. So actually, it's more complicated technically, but
Do you mean contact lenses, like
yeah,
inside your eye?
yeah,
Wow. Okay.
yeah. So it's more complicated technically, but I think the variety of devices is the key to achieve massive adoption. And also, the one of the main like aspects in augmented reality now is content. A lot of use cases are not appropriate for augmented reality. Some developers are trying to transfer non-AR apps to augmented reality and actually making your making the data from your camera just a background. And it's also not real augmented reality, not what it's supposed to be. And if someone want to work in augmented reality and don't have time or engineering huge engineering team to build lenses or something, it's better to create something with content on content side. And actually, great use cases. For example, a company called Luxury. They've created lenses for Snap. Actually, they in
Yes,
Masquerade.
I've seen those.
Yeah, these are great use case how they combined CV plus augmented reality, and it's pretty popular. The other interesting example, you have it on your phone, but you probably never use it. It's called Apple Measure. So it's a measure app for tracking for the distance among physical objects using augmented reality. So you're just opening your camera and can check the sizes, the distance between physical objects. And I really like this concept because here you cannot like um, get away augmented reality and it would work. Not it wouldn't work without augmented reality. Is here augmented reality is the core. It's not a feature, and I like how how this content works with physical environment. It's it's that's one of the greatest use cases I believe, and one of the most useful actually.
That's very interesting. What is your what kind of monetization strategies do you think work best in the gaming industry?
Well, so if we're looking on top grossing apps in the App Store, we will find out that almost any given not augmented reality apps, any given app will be based on social mechanics, whether it's just few like social interactions or the game will be all about multiplayer. Anyway, it should be it should be social. And here comes a problem with augmented reality that before our tech was released, the augmented reality was also offline. And as soon as we have um, like over a billion people who are offline, we can get money from this because you can share it. You don't have reasons to return to the game or an app. So it's just your story. You can share it with someone. And as we getting those social interactions, it's easier for developers to earn money. And actually, they have an interesting fact that in augmented reality there are about 70 million active users and about 930 million untapped opportunity for developers. So actually, you can come with an interesting game or app, try to build some interesting social interactions there, and you will get those 930 million untapped users, because we already have a lot of devices, a lot of people who know what is augmented reality, how to use it, and the only problem here to get massive adoption is to make it social.
Well, thank you so much, Vlad, for an amazing episode. If anyone is interested in learning more about AR and what Vlad is working on at ARnDAI, please let us know. We've included a link in the description, and be sure to reach out to Vlad to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. If you enjoy these conversations, please be sure to follow the Pixie Dust podcast and tune in next week for our next episode.